Hello friends, James Stevenson back with another episode of Who's Hatin' Hard on Tesla Today. I will treat you to the Who's Hatin' Hard on Tesla Today sizzle reel. You don't get that in most videos. And I will let you know that Loki is on assignment in Bosnia. I'm kidding. He's asleep in one of his other beds. Loki has 3 beds, and he's not in this one right now because he's in one of the other ones. And let's get straight to the hate. Let's move over to my shared desktop where I found out about this thread when I was tagged by Edward Pennington Calderhead at EP Calderhead on Twitter. Snuggly Care Bear Drew Dickson was kind enough to bring this thread to light. It seems tailor-made for one of James's videos. I agreed. This is pretty good topic for a video. Drew Dickson replied less enthusiastically, debatable, but I'll take it. I'll save my reply for the end of this video. That'll be your treat. Or if you're not interested in the content of this video, you can, skip ahead several minutes. So what did Drew say? This is at Albert Bridge Cap. I don't know the story behind that handle, but there are many funny cap and capital Twitter handles out there. This is an absolutely excellent analysis of the prospects for Tesla fans. I know your first reaction will be to dismiss it, but give it a shot. It is eye-opening, and at least you will understand the other side of your arguments. This is how auto sales work. So Drew Dickson is going to tell us how auto sales work. Better be good, Drew. So if you have to pick a most offensive Tesla Q troll, it's not Drew Dickson at all. He's fine. He's presenting his case politely. He's mannerly. But he does not believe in Tesla long term, and he is not investing in Tesla. So he likes this thread from Fundamentally Lost. At Lost Fundamental. So let's see if at Lost Fundamental has their act together. First I've ever seen this account before. I checked out their profile. They've got 517 followers, even after this thread, which you would figure must have picked them up at least some Tesla Q followers. Among people that I follow, only James Cat follows this account. James Cat does a pretty good job following Tesla Q's arguments. So there's some of the people following this account. You probably don't care about that. Let's get back to the thread. So this is actually 4 different topics in one thread. I'm going to skip the first one in the interests of time because this video should not be an hour long, and it would be if I stopped on every tweet to talk about it and why it's wrong. But basically in the first part, Lost Fundamentals says U.S. sales are a huge concern, and that's not really true. And then they say China sales lately are a huge concern, and that's not really true either. So the reason for the first of those two, I'll just shift quickly to another tab that I have open here. U.S. sales aren't a concern because U.S. sales were up 44% last year, according to Automotive News. That's not a Tesla bull, right? That's not a Tesla fanboy telling you that Tesla sales were up 44% last year. That is Detroit-based Automotive News. And they did not headline that article, Tesla takes massive 44% year-over-year growth, smashing the competition. They gave it a very boring headline, so nobody would read the article. And then they didn't play up the data. It was buried in the data table at the bottom. You had to go pull it out and chart it to see that this is actually what they were reporting. Everybody else was down, with the exception of General Motors that barely eked out 3% growth over 2021 when they had all those chip shortage issues they were telling investors about was the reason they didn't produce and sell very many in 2021. They only beat that down year by 3% last year. Everybody else was down except Tesla, up 44%. So if you want to sell the story about U.S. sales being a concern, where is it? somewhere in here. Yeah, Tesla is not gaining share so far in the first quarter of 23. Well, okay, whatever. So, funny article here. And then China, the reason this is down so much, the lowest prices on Earth right now are in China because the Chinese economy is in terrible shape and Tesla cut the price there, but not other places around the world. So, if you're Tesla and you're producing a bunch of vehicles from Shanghai, I mean, their production is going to be down because they have a few weeks for national holidays and a few weeks for line upgrades worth of downtime. The production will be a little lower in Q1, and so will the total deliveries from Shanghai, but they're going to be exporting most of what they produce to people who want to pay more than Chinese buyers want to pay for Teslas right now because it's smart to prioritize your highest value market segment and get them their vehicles first, and then work your way down the list to people who are only willing to pay you lower prices for cars, right? That's the intentional strategy from Tesla there, being misunderstood by lost fundamentals. Okay, so now we've gotten to the portion of the thread that has B's in it. So the chapter B topics here are presenting this chart. So I hate that that doesn't quite fit. So what are these doing? They're giving you how many vehicles were sold on the y-axis. So up and down, you can see that the total annual global sales of passenger cars were about 65 million. The distribution here is along the x-axis, what were the ASPs? What were the average selling prices of those vehicles? Well, almost nobody offers a vehicle below $10,000 ASP. You can find some in China, like the Hongguang Wuling Mini BEV, which people like to point to as being a Tesla competitor, even though it's a tiny, unsafe golf cart of a vehicle with no airbags. So almost no vehicles being sold below a 10,000 US dollar price point. If you get to the $20,000 price point, okay, you've got about 15 million of the 65 million vehicles at or below that price. So for $40,000 ASPs or below, there's almost 50 million vehicles being sold globally. That's what this line is telling you. And what Lost Fundamentals has indicated on the chart is, hey, Tesla's ASP used to be here, and then they cut prices, and now they're here. So the vertical distance between these two amounts to 5 million additional vehicles sold globally below at or above a $47,000 price point, as opposed to a $53,000 price point where only 7 million vehicles per year are being sold at that price or above. I hope that made sense. All right, so that's the intro to the concept. What do we have here? The US is 15 million units per annum, that's per year, but 3 segments. So let's slice this 15 million up into segments. The SUV market, Model Y and Model X, is 8 million units, so a little more than half of those 15. So before and after the price cut Tesla made, they now address 1 to 2 million units. So they've gone from addressing only 1 million units to addressing 2 million units. Thus, Tesla had an astonishing 22% or 11% share pre/post price cut, and explains why U.S. sales had stalled. U.S. sales had stalled. Really? Did they stall? They don't look like they stalled to me. Red lines are Tesla ASP pre-post price cuts. All right, so instead of doing global sales, we've cut this down to only U.S. sales, and then we cut it down again to be only U.S. SUV segment sales. And we've indicated here, hey, the Model Y price point used to be $67,000, and now it's $54,000. So now there's a lot more people who have been buying cars at that lower price point. So this vertical distance here is another million income qualified eligible buyers at the new lower price point, is the point Lost Fundamentals is trying to make here. And then in the next tweet, in 2022, Tesla Model Y astonishingly took 37% share in the $50,000 to $60,000 segment. All right, so let's subdivide this again. We called it US only, we called it SUVs only. Now let's call it $50,000 to $60,000 price point SUVs sold in the US only, and throw everything else out, right? If you do that, Tesla had an astonishing 37% share. Now, is Lost Fundamentals applauding that and saying, wow, that's amazing? Tesla took a huge share of that tiny subclass, subsection of the overall global auto market that I defined? No. He's using it to say the two other top-selling Toyota SUVs only command 13% and 8% share of its segment, indicating Tesla is way over-indexing in the US market and running out of growth. Why is Tesla running out of growth? Because Lost Fundamentals has said the addressable market for Teslas is only $50,000 to $60,000 SUVs sold in the US. And they've already taken 37%, so they're running out of growth. They can't take very much more than that. And before the U.S. passenger car market, Model 3 is another 3 million units, and here the price cut barely expanded the addressable market to 0.8 million. Tesla already takes an astonishing 25% of that market. Red is the Tesla, so Tesla cut their price and didn't move very far at all because it wasn't that big of a price cut, so they haven't enveloped that many more buyers based on the historical data time frame Lost Fundamentals is examining. And the US pickup truck market is 3 million units, but tiny at 1 million at 60,000 and above, leaving little room for Tesla Cybertruck in a highly competitive market. Now, what were the two astonishing observations that you just made, Lost Fundamentals? One, that Tesla was taking an astonishing 25% of this market, and another, that Tesla was taking an astonishing 37% of this market. But when it comes to pickups, it's a highly competitive segment, right? I don't know how Tesla's going to do. They don't have a very good track record of dominating the segment that they play in. Well, no, you just said that they do. They're number one. They entered the small luxury sports sedan, or small to mid-size luxury sports sedan market, and took 25% of it. They entered the U.S. Luxury crossover SUV market and took more than a third of the share of that market. But when Tesla launches the Cybertruck, well, it's a highly competitive segment. So people aren't going to want to buy the Teslas in this segment. All right, well, that's like your opinion, man. And in China, it's the same picture for Tesla. Here's the addressable market. So what do we have? Is there anything else here I want to talk about? Well, he did do a hat tip to Drew Dickson here in the thread, which may be how it got seen by so many people, Drew Dickson retweeting it. What else do I want to talk about here? I thought there was something. Oh, yeah, the hatchback. All right, so Lost Fundamentals says Tesla may or may not launch a hatchback, but if they do, it'll only have a 19% gross margin. Well, again, that's just what you're forecasting, what you think the gross margin would be on a Tesla hatchback. I don't know if you have any basis for believing that. And he's using that to then conclude that Tesla can't hit the consensus EBIT, earnings before income tax, profit number that Wall Street expects in a future year, I think in 2027. Oh, I did want to talk about this. He's got one of the tweets here saying, please note unit scale in auto manufacturing does not drive margin. Well, you will need to notify the makers of Economics 101 textbooks all around the world, because they've been teaching people break-even analysis, where at a certain low level of production, it's not possible to be profitable. And then past a break-even point, the more units you make, the more profitable you become as your revenue growth levers against your fixed cost base. That's how economics works. What you have here on your XY scatter plot is reasoning by analogy, saying, hey, I found all these automakers, and if you look at how many million units they're selling versus what their EBIT margin is, the ones that are producing the most are not the most profitable. Well, duh. And you don't have Ferrari on this chart because they wouldn't fit. They're way off the chart up here, selling tiny units at a very high price per unit because that's what business they decided they were in. They decided they wanted to be a low volume manufacturer of extremely high price point vehicles that have a high profit margin. And Toyota decided that they wanted to be an extremely high volume manufacturer competing at the low price end of the minimum acceptable product and try to compete on reliability, low maintenance costs, etc. Right? So any of these automakers, if they were able to produce a lot more vehicles, would become more profitable because they would have more gross margin against the same amount of fixed cost base. So that's the piece of this that you're missing. When Tesla sells more units, they will become more profitable. They will go in this direction from the dot identified on this chart. The more vehicles Tesla sells, the more profitable Tesla will become, all things being equal. And there's an ASP chart here. What was this one doing? Automotive revenue per car versus 21-22 average auto percent EBIT margin. So Tesla is more profitable than the average automaker, and the consensus estimate is that Tesla is going to get more profitable as they sell more vehicles at a lower ASP, and that makes sense. And the alternative case in green here is the bear case, saying, oh no, if Tesla's ASPs fall, then their EBIT percent is going to fall with it. Well, that is a bearish take. I don't know what confidence interval I would give it, a low one. And that's the thread. So I'll back up out of here and pay off what I promised to give you at the beginning, which is my reaction to this line of thinking. So I said, here's your guide to being bearish the Tesla growth story. I'll take a sip of my coffee before I narrate. Step 1. Subdivide the market by class and ASP. No, more than that. Really, dice it up. Yes, like that, good. So dice it up to U.S. market only, SUVs only, $50,000 to $60,000 price points only. Let's look only at that little slice of the market. Let's throw everything else out and let's see how many vehicles are being sold in that area. Okay. Pull out only those subsets of markets each Tesla model has been sold in. Define those as the addressable market, based on how many total units were sold in that market subclass in your historical sample time frame. Refuse to countenance the possibility that other tiny segments you identified and then threw out could shrink, as the tiny subsegment you defined with Teslas in it could grow if more people chose to buy Teslas in that segment in the future, which is what we've seen all throughout Tesla's history, right? So if you went back and looked at how many large luxury sports sedans were being sold before Tesla started selling Model S, right? You would have defined it and said, well, there's not a very large market here, so I don't know how many of these Tesla can sell. And then Tesla would have sold more than you thought they would have. With Model 3, okay, it's a mid-size luxury sports sedan, so there's only so many Mercedes-Benz C-Class and BMW 3 Series and Lexus IS vehicles being sold per year, so Tesla can probably only take a small slice of that existing market. Well, Tesla sells about as many Model 3s as that entire segment was at the time you would have made that analysis. So your methodology doesn't backtest. If I tried doing it the way Fundamentally Lost just did his analysis on Model 3, it would have yielded very low estimates, and then Tesla would have beaten those deliveries every year and the profit margin that he would have expected at that lower volume output, right? Step 4, identify Tesla's historical share of that market subclass. Do so grimly, mournfully. Oh no, they already have 37% of this market. There's not much room left to grow. Cast doubt on the idea that in the future, more people will buy the most compelling vehicles available. This is the crux of the matter. When people go to buy a car, they don't segment it the way that it was subdivided by Fundamentally Lost here. Subdividing it. And Drew tried to tell me that that's how the auto industry works. They look at it by market segmentation analysis. Okay, fine. They can look at it that way. The buyer does not look at it that way. The buyer looks at everything available to them and then picks whatever they think the best value is, the best vehicle for their money. They're spending their own money, and they want to buy whatever vehicle is going to be the best deal for them in terms of what they get for how much they have to give up for it. Ignore that 95% of the time, former Tesla buyers purchase another EV. They purchase a Tesla again. And I'll give you my source for that. I have it pulled up here. Now, when I was rehearsing this earlier, the audio skipped around a little, so you may see that happen again, and the audio and the video come out of sync on this clip. But you'll get the idea once I've let you know that's going to happen.
That's just a mind blower. And they decide they want to get another EV. And frankly, most Tesla, listen to this. When a Tesla household returns to more households, I'm guessing, do want to get another EV. I mean, they've had one, they're EV conscious, and they get another EV. 95% get a Tesla. That's just a mind blower. And they decide they want to get another EV. And frankly,
all right, so this was from Autoline. This is not a bunch of Tesla fanboys sitting around. This is John McElroy, Autoline, and Tom Libby, S&P Global Mobility, sharing research they did on people who had already bought Teslas. When they went back to the market again to buy an EV again, 95% of the time they bought a Tesla. Okay, so with that in mind, ignore that these people may be early adopters and opinion leaders who have friends and relatives who may value their opinions. These are marketing terms, I realize, early adopter and opinion leader. Early adopter means people who are the first to try out new technologies as they come to market. And opinion leaders means people who are thought of as experts by their social circle because they're viewed as keeping up on the latest technology, what's available, what to get. So yeah, they have friends and relatives who may value their opinions. So not only are Tesla buyers going to come back and buy again, Tesla buyers have friends who ask for their opinion. Hey, how do you like your Tesla? Is that a good car? Should I think about that instead of buying some dumb Toyota or Honda? Ignore that most of Tesla's conquests come from non-luxury branded competitors such as Toyota, Honda, Nissan, Ford, Chevy, etc. I don't have a tweet pulled up to back up this point, but the people who have studied conquests, which means one brand taking sales away from buyers who had previously bought a different brand, that research shows Tesla taking a ton of former Toyota buyer business, former Honda buyer business, etc. Were these people in that tiny subsegment that you identified of $50,000 to $60,000 luxury SUV buyers in the U.S.? No, they were in one of the other segments that you threw out. So you don't even consider them to be in the addressable market, but they are. in the addressable market, if you look into the data, you can see these people would not have normally been in the market for a luxury vehicle. Normally they would have been buying a Toyota or a Honda, but the compelling case being presented by Tesla for buying a Model Y is so much better a value proposition. They're going ahead and spending more than they've ever spent before to buy a Tesla because they think it's worth it. They didn't think a Mercedes or a Lexus or a BMW was worth the extra money, but they do think a Tesla is worth the extra money. That's where the sales growth is coming from. It's people moving between subcategories and classes out of lower price points and into Tesla's price point because they find the value proposition irresistible. And of course, step 7 to being bearish the Tesla growth story: declare the growth story over and Tesla overvalued and celebrate. So I didn't expect anything to happen with this tweet because it was a reply to Drew Dickson replying to Edward Pennington Calderhead. But I got 171 likes on here. And then Gary Black jumped in here too. Agreeing with me, Lost Fundamental does not take into consideration that EV share in each segment will grow by 6x, 10% share to 60% share over the next 7 years, and so is using total addressable markets 1/6 of what they should be. That's why his Tesla volume estimates are so low. I agreed, yes, if he had used the same approach 2 or 5 or 10 years ago, he would have greatly underestimated Tesla's sales since. The methodology he outlined in his thread does not backtest. And with that, I will conclude today's episode of Who's Hating Hard on Tesla Today at Lost Fundamentals. And I don't have to check in with Loki because he's asleep in one of his other beds. But I will say, if you enjoyed today's video, click the like button. If you're not a subscriber to my channel already, why not go ahead and subscribe to my channel over here. Click the notification bell if you want to be alerted whenever I post fresh content. Thank you to everyone who supports me, either through Patreon, where you get early access to my videos the day I upload them, or by joining my YouTube channel, as my executive producers, Kathy Kishler and Halter Ferguson Financial did, earning them a thank you at the end of every video, and I'll see you in the next one.